Sorry about the delay. And uh, we're going to get into a little bit of a part two, or actually, this is going to be a little bit more theoretical in terms of game design, uh, merging. And one of the issues with game design itself, which was pointed out yesterday, and we're going to absolutely delve into it, is this idea of in tabletop role playing games, similar to a novelist putting together plot and character story and character arcs and putting them together. Tabletop role playing games have the issue of game mechanics, the science of game design, and then the narrative imperatives and the background and things like that, the art of the game design. So we're going to get into it. For some reason, there's my camera is not focusing today, so we're not really going to focus on my face. But anyway, with the intro. Yeah, having huge tech issues today. Uh, Normally, just before I start, I get a big spike of uh, a big um, data draw, so it'll red spike on me, and so there's usually that's why I don't start at exactly 6 a.m. and Eastern Standard Time. But if you have stopped by for any reason, we're going to get into game design, and this is a the portion of the document that I'm working on, and uh, yes, I'm old school. I love pen and paper. I'm not going to show you my terrible handwriting, but I'm working on a matrix to deal with a subject so that it meets the design goal I'm targeting, like aiming at like throwing darts or using a bow and arrow and aiming at a target and trying to hit that target simultaneously. And what ends up happening in our game design arena is that on one hand, and I am not this person. On one hand, we have individuals in our community that are excellent at uh, manipulating probabilities and mathematics and the as I coin it art and science system. They're very good at the science, and then we have our other side of our community. Yeah, Drew. Yeah, because Drew pointed out something, and I was like, yeah, I don't get it. So, as an individual who loves challenge and loves challenges, let me allow those who weren't aware of or didn't get it to, and Drew being here, perfect, to holistically just take a look at this issue. So, I'm going to relate this to literature, and you'll see where I'm getting with this. Sometimes we'll read a book, we'll watch a television show, read a movie, watch a play, and there are two things going on. Yeah, Monday part two, no morality. Yeah. um, what ends up happening is when you have a story, you have plot and you have character. So plot in a novel, television show, movie, a play, or whatever, are the actual events that happen to take place one after another. So a character walks through a door, a character finds a clue, a character hears a conversation. These are the physical uh, realities of the world when one situation takes place after the next. Story, character is where the how the characters feel about those things happening one after another. Sometimes when a writer or a director or what have you has plot and story, some will go, "Oh, we just backed ourselves into a corner." Which one of these things is more important? Is the story and the character arcs more important? Then don't worry about the physics of how the character gets from A to B. We're concerned about their feelings and their growth or setback to get from A to B. And then there's plot, right? Plot is, um, uh, and what ends up happening in our minds when our two individual brains feel these two different things. sometimes someone will say, and this is plot oriented, wait a minute, what would make them, I don't know, call their loved one at that very moment? That doesn't make any sense. They didn't know their loved one was going through some issue. Why would they, it's what we end up calling plot holes in a story, where they go, wait, when someone goes, wait a minute, there's no way that character would arrive just in time. Or how did the detective know that the killer did? They didn't know that. Okay. And a very tight movie will never leave you questioning how characters physically and how the physics of the world works. Now they have character stories, character arcs, and growth. And when I say character growth, I don't mean they get better. Sometimes I'm using the word growth because there's also setback. A character is in a situation where they have to make a decision. And sometimes if we're rooting for our favorite characters, we want them, they've got A and B, left hand, right hand. Which ones do they choose? And in our heads, we're going, play, make the right decision, make the right decision. And then we are drawn into it because they make the wrong decision. And we go, no, but we understand why. So okay, so I did that. Now let's relate this back to tabletop role playing games and the design goals. So my design goal, and of course, all you guys out there designing games have the same thing. The design goal is to achieve something, and my achievement it's not really hasn't been achieved yet. My design goal is I want to eliminate. I'm doing three things at once, and it's difficult to do. I get it. So I want to do three things at once. One is I want to eliminate the standard way in which we have classic perception checks in a role playing game. So one of the issues with it is rolling dice to find out whether a character knows something or doesn't, whether they notice something or don't notice something in their immediate vicinity. And I wanted this to be a character choice rather than us rolling dice and having to decide and do the funky thing where I know there's something there, but I got to pretend like there's not. And all, I'm like, let's get around that. So you're either deciding to focus on an objective. Your character is focused on an objective, ignoring all other distractions. So you don't. So the character, the player's choice for their character is, I know that there's a chance that I will be surprised by some outside element, but it's more important for me to focus on something. The complete opposite of that is I'm paying attention to my surroundings. I'm a little distracted, but that's because I'm in paranoia mode. I'm looking all around. I don't want to be surprised by anything. I'm keeping my eyes open. Um, and in the middle, of course, is a little bit of balance between the two. And I decided to combine that with a speed factor. So a give and take is okay, if you want to be super focused and you know you're deciding that the game master, the admin could surprise you with things that you're not aware of, you get to act first because we also have initiative. So I'm combining this with a second thing in role playing that happens a lot. Roll dice, find out who goes first. Everyone wants to go first. How do we adjudicate who goes first? I said, let's get past that and you decide whether you want to go first, second, or third. Whether you are acting very quickly or you're laying back in the cut and assessing the danger of the situation. So in my head, and this is me focusing on character, not plot. I was like, okay, well, here's a good trade-off. You could be very focused, knowing that things around you might come at you and you won't notice it, but you'll get to act first in whatever endeavor you're doing. Now, this sounds very centered. Combat centered. You go first, but you don't notice things around you, or you go last, but you notice everything, and you're not going to be surprised. And then you have your middle section. Well, in a non-combat situation because I want I want there to be parity between the two. I also am looking for, and this is difficult to do. Okay, and I rehashed it in my head, and I'm like, okay, well, in a non-combat conflict situation, I want the same to apply. So a character could be hyper focused on their their intellectual pursuits, or even physical pursuits like navigating or constructing something or analyzing something or having a conversation or a social interaction, and I want the exact same thing to happen. Hey, two people are having a conversation. Don't even the characters could even say out loud, don't get distracted, let's hash this out now. Right, where there's other characters going, man, what the hell's going on? I'm asleep with a gun under my pillow and one eye open because who knows who might be coming after me. And applying now a reasonable mechanical choice, both combat and non-combat, that kind of run in parity, and ensuring that one choice is no better or worse than the other choice. That there's a good reason to pick either one, and that's where I'm at. I know I went in a circuitous circle around this thing, but I'm combining. Um, I'm rethinking a standard in tabletop role playing games, and trying to redo those first. Yeah, Shices, go first in combat and be the first one in vacuum. Yeah, yeah, that's a possibility too. Which, for some reason, I've been listening to The Expanse again, which is um, kicking me in my ass in terms of the creativity and stuff. It's actually bothering me a little bit because I'm getting obsessed with it again. So yeah, Drew says I like the idea of eliminating perception roles. I have done so too for my system. I just think it is weird that how focused one is a choice. Maybe as a ADHD person, that has to be weird to me. No, no, no. I get that. Um, I'm not trying to create a realistic emulation of personal, whether it's like um, uh, spectrumizing the brain, right? All of us are on a spectrum, whether we like to think so or not. We don't often do. Seriously, dude, don't do that. I'm picking with you though, because it's one of those things where you're like, what? Yeah, The Expanse is a television show that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel, uh, and then transferred over to Amazon Prime here in the States. And then because it almost got canceled when it left Sci-Fi, picked up by Amazon, was about to get canceled, and then the owner of Amazon was convinced to let the show continue because he's a fan. He was a big fan nerd of the television series. So then it ended up getting 6 seasons. So yeah, and yeah, going back to your comment there, Drew. I did listen. I did consider doing a like separating the two because there are people who are uh, ADHD individuals, and I'm going to be generalized here, tend to be very creative and um, make leaps of connections faster than us slowpokes here on the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, yeah, on the spectrum equals having brain activity. Yeah, of course. Listen, when we wake up in the morning, we're on a different spectrum than we are 2 hours after that point. Speak people who drink coffee all day long. Speak to them, and they'll tell you, listen, I can't even get a brain. Let me get my first cup of coffee in me, and then I'll talk to you. And that's basically being on the spectrum, as well as many other things, emotionally, physically, all that kind of stuff. Uh, so now, to be honest with you, I have thought of a role playing game that would be kind of cool. That was slightly based on how people are on the spectrum, and you could move the dials on the spectrum. Yep, yep, exactly, exactly. Uh, Emulating that in the role playing game, I was like, that's going to hit a little too close to home because as someone who well, has never been diagnosed with ADHD, and I don't believe I am because I I hold ideas in my head for years on end. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I would rather it now. Now, mind you, I'm going to go back to your comment here, Drew. Now, mind you, I have it open that a player can vacillate back and forth between their decision, right? So it's not that you pick one and you're stuck with that for forever. Amen. It is here. If you make this choice, you're here. Go ahead and make another choice. You're switching over to another thing, right? And the only limitation in switching, if that makes sense, like focusing versus being aware of everything, is that you have to let your other players make decisions. When it gets back to you, you can then switch it. Now, mind you, in the heat of battle, that might be 2 seconds, right? Like in the heat of battle, it's like, oh, I've got my I don't know gamma ray laser rifle, and I'm hyper focused on my target, and then 1, 2 heartbeats later, boom! Now I need to make sure that the I don't know the drones dropping I don't know, micro brilliant rockets or something at us. Now I need to be aware of where all the danger is coming from. So you could go, so you can vacillate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Uh, but my issue is I need to come up with a way to, and I'm trying not to make. I need to make it mechanical, but I want to stay away from plus mod minus mods, and I think I'm defaulting to just plus mod minus mod, and and it's very easy to do mods, but the reason why I'm trying to stay away from it is because you can get lost in the sauce with that, because then all of a sudden you start having stacking modifiers. And while I know there's players who don't mind, and I'm using very short, very small modifiers, I still don't want mod hunting. I'd rather get back to the game. Everything I want everything to be character choice, character action, character, and my difficulty is I'm staying away from plot, and that's unfortunate for me. The benefits of Gaia boosts the organic energy tea, get 3 times as much caffeine as coffee, and support the Quechua people of Ecuador at the same time and achieve lucid dream state. I don't know if I could even take that. Listen, I get the shakes just drinking an energy like a Monster energy drink or like a Red Bull or stuff like that. I what was it? It was an old drink called Jolt that was like it said something like twice the caffeine, all the sugar, something like that. Yeah, lost in the sauce where I wanted to be. It's so funny. All right, so enough about me pseudo bitching about my issues here. So that's the mechanical issue I'm talking about. And when it comes to game design, and many times what happens is sometimes we can fall on one side of the issue or the other. We go, you know what? This is a perfect game, perfectly balanced game mechanism, and yet it rubs us wrong when it comes to the art of it. The science works, but the art doesn't. Cool name goes here. Um, CN CNGH that I'm part of in a design team. We have a design uh, die mechanism that has been mathematically figured out to be completely balanced in terms of its escalation and de-escalation, and it rubs people the wrong way because by turning it into dice, instead of rolling the same dice and multiples of those dice, you know what a dice pool is, right? You're rolling 2 6-sided, 3 6-sided, 4 6-sided. You roll 1d10, 2d10, 3d10, whatever, right? That's a dice pool. Well, our dice pool is like d6s plus the other dice, other classic dice. So you might roll 2d6 plus a d8, 2d6 plus a d10, 2d6 plus a d12. And what I just described to you is a 2-step progression moving upwards. 2d6 plus a d8, d10, d12 is a +2 modifier moving up, But what ends up happening is you're rolling a dice pool of mixed dice, and it rubs people the wrong way. I love it. It doesn't bother me, but it sure does rub people the wrong way. And that's where sometimes we get into that's where the art and science of game design comes in, where the math works, but the execution of it feels funny. And the same, and I'm doing the opposite. I'm like, this feels right, but the mechanism doesn't work. And so yeah, it's just so funny. Yeah, it is so much better for you than Red Bull Monster. Yeah, because I mean, the more natural it is, uh, I'm sure the smoother it is going in and exiting out, as opposed to like the Red Bulls and Monsters, which are like um like someone balling up their fist and punching you in the stomach, right? But I remember Jolt was like one of the early ones. Let me see if I even find an image of the old Jolts. Jolt. Uh, was it Jolt Cola? And it was really derided back in the day. I mean, oh yeah, it was like let's see if I could find. There we go. There's some images of it. Yeah, it was. I mean, they ripped Jolt a new one, and then years later, it was like, I want the same thing. It was. I think it was like cola and caffeine combined together, and yeah, a little bit ahead of its time. Discontinued foods. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, the '80s. What a day. What a time period. Drew says, I like the combination of perceptiveness and quickness. I like the combination of perceptiveness and quickness does not work. For me, a person that is really good at reacting to situations is so exactly because they are not hyper focused. Um, yes, but I also we know, and see, this is where uh, gaming comes into it. That let me find the right words. There are optimal methods of performance in tabletop role playing games. Going first is always tends to be better than going last. Acting faster in a tabletop role playing game is it tends to have a significant benefit than waiting. And then being perceptive, noticing things is always better than not noticing a thing in a tabletop role playing game. Not in real life, but in a role playing game. So what ends up happening is, the reason is because in a tabletop role playing game, we take turns to do a thing. So, uh, but because of force multiplication, if I get to act first in a tabletop role playing game, what usually it means is that all of my endeavors take place first before adversaries, other players, what have you, get to do their thing. Because simultaneous activity in real life is hard to emulate in a tabletop role playing game. Um, so, so being able to act first and notice everything is a force multiplier. It means not only do I get to enact the thing and take other people's opportunities to act, but I also can act on all the things around me, making all my choices unlimited. I get to notice everything and then act on that. Um, and that's just a foible of tabletop role playing games. We all can't act at the same time, um, and every player wants to know everything all the time. So I'm balancing the cost of that. Oh no, no, you could go first, but you better focus on the thing that's in front of you, right? It's a cost effect analysis, right? Like, which is more important? Do I want to lay back in the cut and notice things or not? That's how I'm putting it. And if we get to modify both of those separately, players can choose to capitalize on both of those things. I want to go first, and I want to notice everything, and being able to spike those two things up separately. is in many games you're allowed to do that. And what I want to do is I want to make the other choices, the bad choices, and a real balanced choice. And so that's how I'm doing it. Yep. So do you use background or theme music during your game sessions? I do. I like um I not used to be. I used to be a big classical music person, but there's a ton of um movie score not scores. Yes, scores. Movie scores and movie soundtracks. So movie scores are the music played in most movies that doesn't have words in it. And there's many movies that like the movies suck, but the music's really good that I love in the background. You really have to be careful because there are lots of people who are very ear attentive even if they don't think so, and they can pick up a few chords and get really distracted and go, I know that movie, and then they get distracted from the game and go to the movie. But I love background noises and sounds like nature sounds or like dinosaurs or like dragons roaring or battles and things like that. Yeah, I'm big into that. It's difficult to juggle it. So for me, it would be better to give it to other people. If I'm physically at a table, I absolutely positively I love it. Online, it's a little difficult. Yeah, ambient and atmosphere music. Yeah, not stuff with vocals. Exactly. Because unconsciously you can start wording, feeling the words with the music. Now, mind you, Drew, the way I'm describing the cost effect analysis part of it, I'm not saying that's true to life. I was just like, how do we balance this? Right. That's it. It is like in chess. The more a player is focused on their strategy, the less they will react what their opponent is doing. I get it. I agree with you, but Shai says Joel just had too much sugar, automatically made it way worse than the dry, sophisticated palate of classic Coke. I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I remember getting punched in the stomach with some Jolt. It was just like, should this be made for kids? I think it was in the 80s. Uh, Matter of fact, let me the history of this Wikipedia. Jolt Cola, 19 Cola drink was created in 1985 as a highly caffeinated beverage. It was targeted towards students and young professionals, stressing its use as a stimulant in a similar manner as energy drinks. Its slogan reads, "All the sugar and twice the caffeine." Yep. Yeah. In 85, I was 15 years old. Drew says, I use music only between scenes, not in the background of play, probably because of my ADHD, since I get distracted by it. And that's another problem with music in the background. Um, it can be very distracting. So yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons for me trying to come up with the mechanical version of this and the hey, here's a way to modulate it. I'm getting stuck with it. I'm trying not to add plus and minus ones. you know, Part of me is thinking about using the monad echo system and truncating it down. For those who don't know, it is the OGL SRD from World Anvil. In short, it uses a dice pool, D6 dice pool, and the more dice you add, the worse it can get for you. So it is a dice pool where if you roll um, 2 through 6 is d6s. If you roll 2 through 6, it's considered a success. If you roll a 1, then it's a failure. And if you roll a 1, no matter how many dice you have, if a 1 shows up, no matter how many dice, it the what you're trying to achieve does not happen. So it means that when things are working against you, you actually keep adding dice to your dice pool. Um, so simultaneously, by adding dice to your dice pool, it gives you the opportunity to gain more successes to achieve your goal, but it also means you have a greater probability of failing because if a 1 shows up, you fail. But so intrinsically in the monad ecosystem, and again, this is a dice pool where it moves up and down. Like I said, I'm intrigued by it. Is that it both um, punishes you and grants you something in within the game system that's constantly pushing and pulling against the, oh, I want something better, but it's also punishing me for making that choice, right? So rolling 66 in the monad ecosystem means I can get up to 6 successes, which may push me well over the edge, but it also means I have a huge opportunity to roll a 1, which will make me fail. So it's basically gifting you, like, listen, there's probably a good chance you're going to fail, but if you do succeed, you're going to get a lot out of it. Uh, so it's a little weird that way. So all right, let me segue away from this because I was trying to, like, you know because my mind against, because Drew smacked me in the back of the head by after licking her fingers and smacking me back in the head and said, "Wake the hell up, DBJ." I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what?" And then I went, "Oh shit." I was working focused on character, not plot, because as a character focus, the art of it, I was like, but it makes perfect sense to me. I don't get it. What don't you see? And then I was like, oh shit, I didn't notice the mechanical part of it. So let me get away from that so I can show you some other things, or at least run it past you guys, and get you to see what's going on. So, oops, let me go back up here. A strange name to call something that works in favor of the player characters are a category of stats called sacrifice. And I decided to add sacrifice into something that I talk about a lot on the channel. And I said, why not? Why? Why? Why mince words? Why not just use those direct words? I'm still thinking about using the the flavorful words, but I'm still not sure. So sacrifice is are 3 stats that are combined together, and that is time, energy, and resources. And so I basically decided to create a hit point system. I hate using the words hit points, but that's what it is. Um, I guess you could call it stress or wounds or whatever, but instead it is time, energy, or resources. And those are numbers, low numbers. Usually you get 6 points divided between the three of time, energy, and resources. And when the game master challenges the player, they can sacrifice these points so that um, they can progress forward. And it is similar to giving up a Benny or sacrificing a hit point. Um, we don't need to roll the dice, but you are trying to move forward. But there needs to be a cost, and this cost is what I'm putting in the middle, called sacrifice. So we're not necessarily rolling dice, but we are having you eliminate a resource that you have, and part of that lowercase r resources are time, energy, and resources. Energy is like wounds or exhaustion or stamina or bruising, bleeding, sleep, things like that, losing sleep. It's your energy. It is your drive to move forward. Time itself, instead of trying to measure like minutes and moments and things like that, time, I want to pick the lock. Well, it's going to cost you time. I want um, to convince the black market person to allow us to get these fake identities. Well, you're talking, the negotiations will take a while. It's going to cost you time. Uh, hey, we need to reassess our situation, get our equipment, reload our weapons, make some phone calls, whatever the case might be. It's going to cost you time, and um, time is a resource in real life, right? Hey, if you take the time to do one thing, you're not doing something else. And so many times you'll hear the term, like I joked about time won't give me time. You'll hear people, professionals, will go, time is money. So my time is expensive. That is why people charge a lot of money for consulting fees and things like that, time. And then for a tabletop role playing game, I wanted to simulate that thing where One player is doing things that take a very short amount of time. Another player is doing something that takes a long amount of time, and we're not doing that in air quotes real time at the table. Instead, we're just going to expend a resource because one person has to use a lot of time to do a thing. What's a fantasy trope would be like crafting or studying arcane histories or something in fantasy. Another character might be like, I'm modifying my power armor or what have you. Another character might be, I'm making connections with my contacts and things like that. And so to simulate the multiple characters are doing things in different strange time periods, but we need to be together at the table to achieve the same goal, then you're just expending time. And I know that sounds very strange, but I'm hoping it the simulationism of it fades and we get to emulate a thing. And we know resources are a very easy generalized thing. It's what you're carrying, how much money you have, your connections, your favors. It is a resource. What kind of resources do you have? And you may have to burn a resource. Hey, at this station, do I know someone there? And me as the admin goes, well, do you? Hey, listen, burn a resource. You know somebody there, or at least you know somebody that's passing through or whatever. And you go, okay, great, good, because my character is an underworld person and criminal, blah blah blah. I want to find out if I can know someone in. I want to make a contact, and it's like, you know what? We don't even need to roll for it, but I need it to cost you something, so you need to knock off a point of you need to sacrifice something, and and try to turn that into a normal gaming gaming feature, right? Here comes that face again. I like the very good. I'm always amazed at I'm always amazed at the artistry when it comes to makeups and things like that. There, of course, we know like on TikTok, YouTube, there are people who are masters at the illusion of adorning their faces to make them transform, and it's really cool. But anyway, that's that part. I want to go down here to methods and actions and then see what you guys have to say. Oh, what does monad stand for? Let's see. Monad, the monad echo. If I'm not mistaken, monad is an Italian word, and believe it's mathematical. And let me see, find another one. And it means a single unit, the number one, a single celled organism, or, and there's a spiritual nomad as well. The term monad from ancient Greek, unity or alone, is used in some cosmic philosophy and cosmology to refer to a most basic or original substance. As originally conceived by the Pythagoreans, the monad is the supreme being, divinity, or the totality of all things. So it's a monad philosophy, and it's also used in mathematics as like a single unit of something, um, or like the number one. So a monad echo is like the it is the echo of all things, and I guess it refers to like here we go, monad echo. Let's see if I can find it. Boop, 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 boop. Yes, I know it's on Drive Through RPG, but I want to go to the direct. I want to go directly to the World Anvil. I'll show you guys. There we go. But anyway, it's an Italian. If I'm not mistaken, it's an Italian system. Where's the download? Come on, come on, come on. Let's go home first. Because I literally just found it. I own Dead Air Seasons right here, and and these are Monad Echo hacks. Hmm. Let me find the SRD and then put it in. There we go. All right, we're gonna do. Here it is. My brain. The Monad Echo SRD. It's free, and let's go. Just for anybody that wants to, man, gotta share it. If I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna share it. Latin. Yep. 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 No, it wasn't game specific. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, the monad echo is game specific, but the word monad is used by them. No, it doesn't stand for anything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys are right. Absolutely. Latin. What is it? Um, I remember something from school. Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian. It was something the Latin derived languages and such. So yeah, I think it's about and 60 pages long, something like that. It goes into a lot of detail, but yep, you can get the PDF. So for myself, I also like the idea of players being very creative in how they use the elements that they have for their own character. And in a world where you have all of human knowledge at your fingertips, I didn't want to do a giant skill system, simply because you could literally, you know, um, plug it in your brain. But despite the fact that we humans have all human knowledge at our fingertips on our phone, not everybody uses it that way. We usually use it for 30 seconds clips of something distracting. So my version of this is to basically do the adverb verb. I showed you guys this yesterday, where you can pick up the three methods and then three actions and mix and match those methods and actions together to achieve something. This takes the place of strength, dex, constitution. Instead of characters having um, stats like how strong you are, how fast you are, or something, you get to choose your own methods and they represent your stats. So you get to basically choose the things that you want your character to be good at. And when you mix and match them, they you can apply them for your physicality, your mentality, your social, your technical acumen by doing it. So for this 36 point table here, these are methods and you can combine them with an action. And so um, again, with the physical ones, we've got our first category. We've got swiftly, strongly, flexibly, vigilantly, accurately, stubbornly. Then for the mental part, we have like subtly, boldly, carefully, precisely, instinctually, strategically. And then socially, we've got things like calmly, mechanically, um, um, emphatically, empathically. Path. There we go. Woo. Rousingly, honestly, welcomingly, and such. And there's more. Of course, there's more of them. And now, mind you, I can see if you're very creative, you can go, wait a minute. If I'm doing something carefully, that's not just mental. Like I could carefully um, thread a needle, or I could carefully, do something mechanical like fix a bolt or something. And the answer to that is yes, of course you can. That's the whole point. And then you mix that with three of these other things, which are actions. And I'll bold this up just so it sticks out. And so you get three actions, and actions are like, um, the if you're performing this action, you're better at it than other people. Maybe because you've done it a lot of times, or you focused on it, or you just have natural aptitude, or something like that. So physically, we have things like escape, disarm, restrain, hide, infiltrate, distract. For social things, we've got trick, lead, threaten, entice, charm, entertain, sabotage. Now, the word sabotage socially could be like saying things to sabotage someone's reputation, but you could sabotage a device too, right? Um, and then lastly, we have tech, which, four-letter word. I tried to get it like real short, but it doesn't necessarily mean technical things. But again, there's words like operate, modify, erase, disable, decipher, bypass, monitor, analyze. Sounds very like high tech ish for actions. But again, all of these actions aren't restricted. It is how creative you are. So, for example, a character could say, "Well, I want to convincingly disarm my someone at the dinner party," right? Or right, and even though I wrote it down, disarm as physical, which I probably should just erase the whole physical part, but I wanted to narrow it down in case someone is like, listen, I just want to make Billy Badass who's got a lot of guns. What are some really cool things I can pick, and then do that. Um, but it's not necessary. So that's one creative thing, and I love giving players choices, and without having a ton of modifiers, for me, I feels like it's a lateral choice rather than a rising falling choice. Meaning, like, um, people that are very creative to me, I love rewarding creativity, and it challenges the brain in terms of being creative to allow players to do that without necessarily doing it in the manner of here's a whole bunch of more here's um, a ton of modifiers to reward your creativity. Um, Now we do have something here known as ties. So um, recovery happens in a number of different methods, and recovery can happen physically, like resting. Resting, we have long rest, short rest, which is a big thing, right? Of course, tabletop role playing games. I want to rest. I want to heal. I um, in fantasy, I'm going to rest and drink a potion or something like that. That exists in the game. But you can also recover through your core and through your ties. So recovery doesn't necessarily mean resting. Recovering is, and I was going to use the word a reassessment, and I might go with reassess, although it's not very descriptive. But reassess is like looking at your life and assessing where you're at in your life. It's like taking a breather, which I was going to call it a breather too. Um, Ties don't necessarily mean you're resting. Um, it could mean getting in contact with long lost friends or family. And while that connection might stress you out or may stress us out in reality, your player character, your character is recovering because of these things. It's a desire to get your character out from being turtled up, stretching themselves out into the world, engaging with the world, and you get a benefit from that. You get to recover some of your um, check marked off sacrifices and things. Let me go backwards just a little bit, so because I did pass by something. I passed by that image. So sacrifice is your first step in terms of losing something in a character, and once it passes by your sacrifice, you start losing your assets. So sacrifice is like hit points. Like if you start marking off, you start sacrificing your time, energy, and resources. There's no other mechanical downfall for that. Much like losing 17 hit points and losing 5, other than the number going down, there really isn't any change in your character in terms of fantasy gaming D20. And the same is actually here. Your energy level, you only get in the beginning, you only get 6 points between the three. So, like if you put 2, 2, and 2, you only get 2 points, right? But now, mind you, you could put 1 and 1, like 1 in time, 1 in resources, then put 4 points in your energy, which is fine. Very low numbers. We're only using D6s, so the numbers are very low. But I specifically decided to go with the D6s and go with low numbers because a change of 1 or 2 points is a dramatic thing, and I like the drama, so we don't really need we don't need large numbers to have drama. When you're losing 1, 2, or 3 points is dramatic because then you know immediately, like, oh shit, I'm halfway down. Now once it goes past your energy, you start sacrificing, marking off your assets, and that's where it really is going to where you start to get that downward spiral. So ties are people, places, and or things the star has an intrinsic and emotional connection to. Each star describes a person, a place, and a thing that is important to the character. Ties are important for recovery. When a star interacts with a tie, it can recover, adding adding the value to any sacrifice and assets that were lost due to setback and dilemma. So you assign a 1, a 2, and a 3 numerical value to the star's people, places, and things. And then there are examples of it. You are encouraged to make ties personal, be creative, and link them to other players' characters in the setting. And I was going to have a table where you can choose how your ties are linked to each other. Uh, and the admin can threaten your ties. The star rolls a d6 at the beginning of the game session. If the result is equal to or less than the tie value, the admin can and should try to prevent the tie from being used by the star. It's basically it's a built-in story hook. So you may have a photograph, you may have a sibling, and you may have a location you go to all the time, and or a bar, right? A casino, a dark alley, a city park, or something. And then those are where you can recover. And then I have some examples here, like people, places, things, uh, crash site, monument, Venus, Mars, Jove, Aster, park, back alley. There's people like siblings, friends, mentors, and then like some strange modifiers, like maybe they're ancient, unthawed, autons, virtual or holo, clones, remote, things like that. In the movie Blade Runner 2049, Ryan Gosling plays a character, and one of his ties is to a off-the-shelf purchased holographic girlfriend that he has. I don't know how he thought his holographic girlfriend wasn't, like, how did he get it and then realize that she was like off the shelf? I don't understand. Like, I don't know how he didn't know that, but whatever. But the movie was good. It was just weird because then he sees a billboard, and I'm like, you never noticed that billboard before? Holographic billboard of your girlfriend? Okay, so we've got recovery. You can rest. You have your ties, and then you have your core. Every star has a core, a fundamental drive. In an era of existential uncertainty, the core pushes against a cornucopia of voices, desires, comforts, and placations. There are 12 cores. Feel free to pick from below or roll randomly. The table's ability weighted for average citizens of the system. So there's some that are more rare than others, but there's like 12 of them. I added 6 more. I was going to leave them at 6, but I added 6 more so that there's a wider range of what players can choose as their core. And your core, think of your core as like alignment. It's like what you're driving towards. And so that's what it is. So, like for our more common list, we have expression, and next to it, I decided to list a common purpose of it. So we've got passion, honor, discipline, promise, ascendance, and status. So passion is like feelings, um, You have an intrinsic emotional desire to do this thing. Honor is is it says what it means. It means you're trying to achieve this part of you, this core that's part of you, um, deals with your honor, your face. It is something greater than yourself. Um, Discipline is like you've decided to do this thing to make yourself and or the rest of the world better, or you've decided to go on this goal despite what society has said. Promises, you've made a promise. It's like a promise, a duty, a you've agreed to a code of conduct to do a thing. Ascendance is you feel that there's something above humanity, and humanity should advance to a higher level. And then we've got status. Status is like reputation, wealth, um, um, gaining higher status amongst society itself. And so we've got, so under passion we've got expression and elementalist. Expression is like art, uh, make a voice for people that can't speak for themselves. And then elementalist is like naturalism, going back to the basics, primordialism. Then we've got extropian and egalitarian. We've got explorer and escapist. We have expansionist and exterminator. We've got exactor and esoteric. And then we've got enterprise and excellence. And so those are some of the things. I think you could mix and match some of like, well, is that really discipline or is that passion? Is that really ascendance or is that honor? I think there's a way you can make the argument to mix them. So again, like alignment, these aren't concrete. But I will say that if your character dies, you got to pick another one. So you do have a limit because every time your character dies, you can't go back to your old core. Death has a fundamental change for your character. Yeah, your character can keep coming back over and over again, but ultimately, death will change you, even if you think it won't. And so, yep. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, core is the second of three methods of recovery: ties, core, and repairs. So, so we have recovery, and how do you recover things? Um, so there repairs apply to both organic, bioorganic life and mechanical life. So yes, regular old born natural human beings do call it repairs, and yeah, repairs are for bioorganic sapiens and mechanized sentience. So yeah, and how many points you can gain from it. So if you're in a safe haven, you recover, and all these add together. You safe haven +1. If there's an expert paramedic or expert mechanic, you get another +1, and then hospital care or engineering laboratory, you get another +1. So if you're in a medical hospital, of course there's probably an expert paramedic or doctor, and you're in a safe place. So all three add together, but you might be in a battlefield or on a starship or something like that. It might just be you in a hospital, right? Like the classic hero gets shot and they go into a veterinary clinic. Well, okay, you might be temporarily safe and you are in a place of care, but are you really an expert paramedic? I don't know. Maybe it's not so safe, but there are things to help you out. Um, and then we talk about baggage and types of baggage. Sorry. Uh, uh, Baggage are like conditions, and I just like the word because it just sounds it sounds rude. Shice's Joy was awesome. She's AI, develops her own personality. 2049 was the most worthwhile sequel in the latest fraction of eternity. I love that movie. It's not the most exciting thing in the world for some people, but it's very thoughtful. And like the first Blade Runner, it's very difficult to make that. When you're trying to make a lot of money and express it as this like high tech, very fun, action packed thing, and you're like, well, it had action in it, but it's also kind of deep. It's pretty deep, you know. What was it? Love was artificial. They was love, I believe. So anyway, these are baggage, and you can acquire baggage. You can only carry as much baggage as your energy level. Energy is only going to be between one and four in the beginning of the game. So I was going to implement a baggage takes the place of your assets, but it was getting a little too like fiddly because then you know you're going back and forth. Do people really want to mark off one thing to add another thing and then take it away and then add it again and take it away? And I said, no, 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 no. We're just going to make you just keep stacking baggage on top of you. The minute you surpass your energy level with too much baggage, then your character is just out of the game for however they feel, physically, mentally, socially. You're done until you can get this shit off your shoulders, which is the baggage. You're carrying around a lot of baggage. So of course we have physical baggage like immobile, weakened, poisoned, suffocating, punctured, broken, ionized, irradiated, burning, blind or deaf. So we've got that. We've got some mental baggage like angry, vengeful, dysmorphic, forgetful, guilty, defeated, confused, sleepless, stuttering. And then we've got some social baggage like debt, paparazzi, mistrust, overheard, gossip, duty, hunted, exposed, stalked, infamy, those kind of things. And I'm literally, I'll call this an homage, but really I'm stealing it from Thirsty Sword Lesbians in the sense that baggage cannot be healed mechanically. So going back to the art and science, the science part of it, oh, I heal 4 points because I went to my ties and I recovered and blah blah blah. You know, I took the healing potion, and but in a sense of baggage, baggage can't be healed numerically. You have to heal it through the narrative. So if your character is fearful or forgetful, or there's paparazzi following you, or you're suffocating, or you feel guilty, or you're bleeding, or you're feeling dysmorphic or vengeful or confused, to get rid of that, you're going to have to engage in a narrative. And this is specifically a fruitful void of the game. Like there aren't going to be specific rules to get rid of these things. Now, in Thirsty Sword Lesbians, they do list like, hey, if you're angry, to get rid of your angry feature, you must destroy something that's important to you, right? Like maybe you're carrying, or it's the classic television or movie trope of someone sees a picture of their loved one, but they're mad at them, so they take the picture and toss it down and throw it, and it cracks, and then we do a close-up of the broken picture frame and the glass, or the picture ripped in half or something like that, or burned or whatever. And the same thing goes here. I didn't list every single baggage and every single way you can get rid of it, but I think I may end up having to do that, and I hate being fiddly like that, but essentially that's what it is, right? Just like the Powered by the Apocalypse Thirsty Sword Lesbians, also, you have a greater chance of getting rid of these things if your allies help you do it. So if you are fearful or stuttering or angry, another player character can help you get rid of that baggage. They call it what do they call it? It's some kind of condition. Shit, I can't remember. Mind you, when I say I'm stealing it, there's actually an OGL SRD attached to it. Social paparazzi, like you're a voyeur? No, they're voyeuring you. No, you're not the stalker. You're being stalked or idolized, or you're being hunted. Right? That's what that is. It means for some strange reason, other people are finding you. They're trying to follow you and take pictures of you for whatever reason. You've done something socially that is drawing the attention of others who want to very noticeably gain your attention and spread that attention around. Look at Billy Badass. He's doing this thing. Hey, everybody! Blah blah blah. You know, it's that kind of thing. You've gotten a fan club and they're following you. Now, mind you, that fan club doesn't necessarily need to be like a bunch of teenagers going yay, or a bunch of like TMZ style like do do do. Look what this person has done. Which it could be that way, but there could be other reasons for it too. Like maybe there's a space station that's very bored, and you're the new face in town, and they're just like, let's post this person on every billboard around because they're new because we're bored. It could be something like that, right? Which you could have a stalker, I guess, would be similar to the paparazzi, except the stalker is like obsessed with you, um, or hunted by an organization, or you're overheard, someone overhears your conversation and starts spreading rumors or selling the information to someone else, which is like gossip. Both of those are similar. Someone could be gossiping about you, but being overheard, could be a spy or um, rival faction or something like that. So all of these are baggage conditions, and you can acquire those baggage conditions, and you want to get those damn things off of you, like 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 the term baggage. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to have assets, it's another thing to have baggage. Um, and then we start talking about combat and conflict. Essentially, it's the same thing. Your progress die is going to subtract from all the things that are coming at you, and your setback die is building things against you. And of course, you want one to be better than the other. So let me move this right here. So yeah, physical battles, exploring dangerous environments, navigating complex social dynamics, and overcoming internal conflicts are all handled with the same rules and have outcomes of equal successes, failures, and consequences. So, like I said before, family drama and a running gun battle have the exact same consequences. It's well, maybe not the exact same consequences. That's a little bit ridiculous, unless your parents are like that. Your family and friends are like, "Yeah, we come together for dinner and we all put our firearms on the table or something." I don't know. Uh, yeah, the progress die is always in favor of the star. Progress subtracts from dilemmas. The goal is to reduce the dilemma to zero, solving the problem. So the setback die works against the star and is often used by the admin as a challenge. The admin should set the parameters of the setback, what sacrifice the star could make, and the results of the choices. Setback is applied to sacrifice by the admin, not the player. So an example would be, I would say, all right, in this, because of your setback, it's going to cost you time or energy or resources or some blending of the two. So I, as the administrator, the GM, sets the loss, and then the player has to deal with that loss. You know, the admin picks time, energy, or resources. Setback is subtracted from one of the three sacrifice categories, then assets as befits the narrative. And a dilemma is a problem facing the star. All dilemmas, capital D, usually has a number after it, are adjudicated by the admin. A numerical value is assigned to the dilemma. A dilemma can come from many sources. So the admin can create a dilemma. The star creates a dilemma from setback, or doubles are rolled and the player chooses to create a dilemma. So instead of suffering damage, what you call like a loss or damage, you can say, you know what, can I make that a dilemma? And it's like, okay, well, you only get to make as many dilemmas as players, right? So if you've got four players, there can only be four dilemmas on the table because it can get a little too confusing. And it also prevents players from avoiding all losses by just keep creating dilemmas over and over again. But the minute one is solved, it is four players, and one of those dilemmas is done, and there's a space for another one. Okay, we've got three dilemmas. A player could jump on the bandwagon and go, all right, well, I rolled really terribly. Can I make that a dilemma? And you're like, yeah. And it's just more problems stacking against you, having to deal with more and more and more things. It's like clocks, right? In Forged in the Dark, it's like clocks. So each dilemma is yet another clock that's happening, and the dilemma is part of the narrative. So a clock could be a corporation with mercenaries. It could be a rogue AI. It could be a meteor swarm. It could be an out of control starship. It could be a poison gas. It could be the constant phone calls from your parents. Um, yeah, so, yep, yep, yep. Um, Fiction first. adversaries, objectives. Oh yeah, everything isn't kill or be killed. So here's some example win conditions for objectives, right? So it's not about taking your hit points to zero. It's getting the dilemma to zero to obtain an objective. So the players can obtain many objectives. And when numbers go down, you get closer to your objective, which doesn't necessarily mean killing and being killed. So I made a bunch of these objectives. You can roll randomly or pick some for the admin and or the players. So, for example, in combat, you can evade, outlast, trap, reinforce, blend in, rescue, surround, predict, chase, escape. And so, for example, if you are working against mercenaries that are hunting you down, and I don't know, you're in a domed city on Mars. Yes, you could be shooting at each other, but success could be escape. So it's not taking an enemy down to zero. What happens is you take the dilemma down to zero, which means you escaped. Some people could die in it, sure, you kill some bad guys, whatever, but it's not kill bad guy down to zero. Okay, now we escape. It is numbers go down to zero, we escaped, or numbers go down to zero, we bargained or interrogated or purchased or traded or blackmailed, or under tech, got through the back door, reprogrammed, downloaded, broadcast, shut down, inserted data, erased entry, activated, remote operation, things like that. So it's not direct damage goes down. Oh wow, social paparazzi after you, so you can go out like yeah, Amy Winehouse. Yeah, you can't just transfer to a new zipper, or can they still follow you after that? I don't know. Can they? That's the question, right? Like maybe you're Billy Badass in the best hyper combat modified jacket you've ever had, but now to escape the paparazzi, you have to zip into another body that's completely different. So could that solve the issue? Of course it can. Possibly, sure. Why not? Why the hell not? Uh, yes, it's come to think of it. Speaking of paparazzi, what is the mainstream media in Obsidian like? I guess that's a topic for a whole new show. Yep. Yeah. I'm sure it's like today with the volume turned way up. But yes, there are people who have are life streamers, so they stream their entire life. Some of those people were born streaming their life, a la Truman Show, and those individuals have been streaming their life for a long time. As a matter of fact, there are popular interstellar media stars who have where there's a single body but different personalities are zipped into that jacket of the media star over time, and people follow the body, but there's different personalities operating in that person, so that person can operate close to 24 hours a day, if that makes sense. People take shifts. If that There are minds that take shifts in the body of the person, so they're constantly entertaining people, and they have a a entourage to keep the biological, if the person does have a biological body or a mechanical body, operating at peak efficiency, so everyone gets to live vicariously through this person. Even though the mind isn't sleeping because another shift takes over, the body can suffer biological harm from operating for 22 hours a day or something like that. But that's where drugs come in. Unfortunately, pretty weird, but I think it would be amazing, especially if a players characters are operating one of these people. Uh, One of these, I don't know. I don't have a name for it yet. I think I would love to have some names for it. But anyway, this is real quick character creation summary. You have an approach. Divide 3 points between these three. Yes, you can have one that's a 0 or a -1. So from your approaches, you got a vector arc or access. There is a numerical value attached to it, so you could be better at one than some of the other ones. You pick your mind. This is your cortical stack, your mind, your memories, and you have methods and actions. and you get to mix and match those. You pick your sacrifice: time, energy, and resources. You note your time, your energy, your resources. Kind of write some details down there if you'd like to. You pick your ties: persons, places, things. You pick your assets. You can have a total of 12 assets. Your three methods and three actions take up 6 slots of your assets, and then your jacket gets another 2, and then you have some optional assets, which is going to be a big list of those, and then your core. What is your core? And then of course you have your name, your background, your origin, your role, some of your goals, your impending doom maybe for your character, and things like that. So, yep, that's it. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Drew, for challenging me. I really appreciate that as well. To be honest with you, don't get a chance to do that too often. Don't to like really assess a thing, because to for growth, there's always a need to. I'm a consummate person who loves being educated and learning new things, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff. I know I'm meandered on this live broadcast, but will you name a song you like just for its drum beat alone? Really? I would have to say for drum beat, System of a Down, Toxicity. I think I love the drum beat in that. Yeah, System of a Down, Toxicity is probably like I love the it's not 2/4. It's System of a Down has these offbeats that I really love during their like their pinnacle, and really amazing stuff. So just for the sound and the off kilterness, offbeat, on beat that they would play with, like it's like rock jazz to me. Yeah. Like, holy fuck, I'm never gonna be able to play along to that. Yeah, the boom, 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 boom. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One's playing like a 4/8 or 2/4 beat, and the other person's like a 3/5, but they come back on. Yeah, the System of Down is pretty cool like that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you, there, Shy Squad. I like those too. Yeah, because um funky hip hop like uh drumming beats are like the beating of the heart. It can be more emotional, like the beating of the beat of the music can pound into your chest like the beating of your heart, and that's where that beat comes from. That's why hip hop music is so um is has such a fundamental heavy bass in it, because it is a beat of your heart, like and it almost pounds your chest a bit. Yeah, yeah. I can't even copy it, just like drum beating it on a table or something, right? Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I'm with you there. You're the professional. You call yourself a caveman. I don't know. You're the professional there, dude. I'm a very much a layman, uh, but yeah, being offbeat like that. There's a hip hop artist, JID, that raps like that. He raps offbeat to come back on the beat again, and is intricate with his wordplay. But yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool when I see people do that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. It's like tap dance, where you could be off the beat and then on, and you circle back onto the beat, because they're doing it in like 5/10 and stuff. So could you name a song you like with a funk type beat that I could hopefully play along to? A funky beat? Yeah, Cream by Wu-Tang Clan. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, many covers of that beat. That Shaolin piano beat. Very classic. Yeah, Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Very, very laid back, funky hip hop beat. That's classic, classic during it. Mid '90s, late '90s, something like that. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I got to get out of here. We'll talk about all this bullshit tomorrow as well. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank all of you, the rest of you who've been listening in and finding the channel as well. Thank you very much for that also. So, guys, thank you very much. It's so funny. Cream, good idea. Yeah. And if you really don't get it, the word cream does stand for cash rules everything around me. If you're unaware, you're like, wait, what? Yes, that's what it stands for. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace.